Hi everyone, this is Tatiana Kolovu. This is the May edition of Stronger, my LinkedIn newsletter. You're nothing but a great big coward. The first time I watched The Wizard of Oz, it struck me how painfully direct Dorothy was to the cowardly lion. If you've ever seen the movie, you know that the lion was all bluster. He turned tail in every tough situation. But as the story unfolds, he slowly develops the skills that help him to overcome the fears and confront the Wicked Witch of the West. Just about every one of us has been in situations where we chose to retreat from conflict or the discomfort of a courageous conversation. A courageous conversation is one that makes both you, the sender, and the receiver uncomfortable. You may be delivering bad news or stating unpleasant facts or even making a great big request. To help you strategize before having these types of conversations, I've shared a few critical questions that you need to consider. Then, based on conversation communication theory, I detail a real life example of how a courageous conversation plays out in the workplace. If you find all of this helpful and want to hear more, I've planned a LinkedIn Live, my very first one, on Thursday, June 10th. It's going to be at noon Pacific Standard, 3 p.m. Eastern, and my colleague Brenda Bailey Hughes will be joining me. Join us as we share more examples, more helpful ideas, and we take your questions. Now, here are some questions for you to consider before you have a courageous conversation. First, how well do you know your audience? What are their values? What do they consider a priority, and how will your information help them or make their situation better or easier? In other words, what's in it for them to listen? Now consider their communication style. Are they direct or indirect? Will they quickly understand the context of your conversation, or do you need to provide any backstory? Finally, factor in the relationship that you have with the receiver. Do you need to show deference to their authority? Or in this situation, are you the boss? Second question, do you have a negative filter? We all are influenced by past experiences, assumptions, beliefs. When it comes to uncomfortable conversations, it's natural to avoid them if we've only had negative scenarios play out. Now be self aware and check your assumptions at the door, as we say. Try to hold your position lightly, and if you have a trusted friend, get their honest feedback before you act. Third question to consider, is it the right time and place? Your courageous conversation may get sabotaged from the start if you haven't thought about both time and place of when it will occur. Will your receiver be able to give you their full attention, or have you chosen a bad time of the day, the week, or the quarter for you to meet? Is the meeting scheduled in a busy work setting, or is the receiver's office available? Is it in a boardroom where you may have to be more submissive in your position? Can you schedule the meeting in a more neutral setting or over coffee? Finally, what is the right channel, and are you getting any feedback in this conversation? A courageous conversation, it's at its peak challenge state when it's face to face, even if it's in a virtual setting. So sending a courageous email or text doesn't qualify as a conversation, even though it's often a good idea to forewarn your receiver that you want to talk about and discuss the topic. If you decide that face-to-face is the best channel, be sure to first practice with a trusted colleague or mentor to get your tone, your pacing, and the message right. Now, as you contemplate these communication strategy questions, let's consider what happened to Ria, a unit manager who dealt with her supervisor. This is what Ria said to me. The supervisor one day said this: "You don't know anything about the tech side of this project, so it would be of no help to get you involved." Ria later told me that it was cold water in her face. She was so upset that she considered asking to be transferred to another department. These are the 4 steps that Ria took to strategize for addressing her boss in this courageous conversation. Step 1. Ria knew her supervisor well and had witnessed her supervisor being painfully direct with others in the company. She also knew she represented and and responded well to direct messages, and she valued the straightforward approach. Ria knew that it was important to her supervisor to shine in the eyes of the board and always want to hit her goals that the team was set for. Step 2. The situation upset Ria enough to consider leaving the company. Now, she had worked with a former boss where the same scenario played out. But Ria decided to turn this challenge into an opportunity by asking for what she needed from her supervisor. Step 3. She looked at her boss's calendar and determined that midweek, when they had a regular meeting, would be a good time for the conversation. She confirmed that her boss would not be distracted by any last-minute deadlines or pressing issues. Their meetings always took place in the conference room. Finally, step 4. Their weekly meetings were held face-to-face, so Ria had no other option. She realized that as difficult as it would be, that she had to say was needed to be delivered directly. Her plan was to send a follow-up email to her boss highlighting some of their discussion, if it went well, that is. If you had been in the conference room, this is what you would have seen Ria say and do. Ria sat tall at the end of her chair. She placed her hands on the table, slightly leaned forward, and said, "Look, there's one more thing I want to bring to your attention. Last week, you said that I had no tech knowledge about the project and I shouldn't get involved. It struck me that you were right. I don't have any tech knowledge, but it doesn't mean that I don't want to get involved. Learning more, gaining the tech skills, and providing value to the team will not only help the final project, but it will help all of us win more contracts. I need your help. Can you get me approved for the next round of trainings? I want to be involved so I can bring results." Yay! Way to go, Ria. That took courage. Courage to set your emotions aside, ask for what you want, and show how you can bring value. Courageous conversations create discomfort, but strategizing and practicing will make them easier. That's the drill the Cowardly Lion followed, and it worked well for him. What courageous conversation will you plan for next? Thanks for listening.